Hey SEOs and content marketers, say goodbye to crazy spreadsheet mashups and experience unprecedented connectivity between your SEO planning and reporting data. Introducing Audience Key, technology for keyword mapping, content brief automation, and rank tracking that form an SEO strategy system providing unparalleled feedback loops between planning, reporting, and optimization activities. Put your time and energy into strategy, not data upkeep. Visit audiencekey.com and apply for a free trial today. Hey everyone, welcome to Webcology here on WMR.fm. It is the 16th of November, 2023, and it being the 16th of November, 6 weeks till Christmas, it probably means that Google is screwing with you somehow or another. They do this on the 16th of November. Welcome to Webcology, friends. This is Jim Hedge from Digital Always Media, Christine Schackinger from Sites Without Walls. And we're going to be joined in a few minutes by Joe Mabel, one of the top contributors to WikiCommons and Wikimedia. There was a Wikimedia conference that happened in Toronto last week. It was going to be our feature story this week. We were going to spend the entire, actually as much time as 45 minutes on it. And then Google-versed us yesterday.
Then Google happened.
Scroogle. I think some people might be saying today. But today, for anyone who's feeling this way, who's feeling like everything is turned upside down and they're not really quite sure how they're going to react to Google's announced changes, this has happened before, ironically, on November 16th. This is the 20th anniversary of the Florida update, the day the Googleverse literally changed. And also the update that Google promised they would never do this sort of thing before Christmas again.
It's Google.
just because you know how you can tell when Google's not necessarily telling the truth. Their fingers are moving.
Well, and to be a little fair, play devil's advocate here. The reason they're behind this year and running updates is because Project Gemini is also delayed, and Project Gemini was supposed to have been released already. So now they have to deal with the fact that that's not going into a Q1, and they have to catch up on all the other things that they were going to do after it released, but did not release. So
you mean they have like twinning conflicting problems because of Project Gemini? Who could have thought it?
Who could have thought it? Let's launch Project Gemini in September, right before the holidays. It's perfect time.
Okay, so there's a lot of upheaval happening in the SEO world. We are going to get to that at the end of the episode. We're going to talk all through the changes. We're going to talk through personalization. We're going to talk through hidden gems.
And notes meets when Google meets MySpace.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the new social media feeling of the Googleverse. And we're going to tease the heck out of this moving forward because there's a lot to talk about. But before we go even there was a major conference that happened in San Diego last week. Well, the show was on air. It was at the beginning of the conference. And at this conference, Google spokesperson Danny Sullivan, Search Liaison, announced that everything was going to change. He didn't say everything was going to change next week, but he did say everything was going to change.
I didn't say 4 days later.
Indeed. Christine, you were in the room when he was making that announcement. Did you have a sense of the enormity that was coming?
Yes and no. So Danny's exact quote is, I looked it up to make sure I knew what it was. So his exact words were that there's so much coming on. I don't want to say buckle up, because that makes you guys freak out, because if you're doing good stuff, it's not going to be an issue for you. Of course, I just talked to a site yesterday. It's doing all good stuff, and they just got hit, but it's Google. But yeah, so he did say that there's a bunch of changes coming. It also could be related to the DOJ documents revealing some of their ways they do things. Who knows? But they did say bunch coming. They didn't say next week, of course, but
Funny you should note that. We'll get to some of those DOJ documents later in the episode as well.
yes, yes. So, do we want to talk about Brighton real quick, though?
Yeah, yeah. Really quickly, then I want to jump to the other conference that we were going to talk about, the Wikimedia conference.
Yes,
And then we're gonna have to jump slice back into the changes to the enormity of the Scroogleverse.
yes. And don't forget Sam Altman and God, but
We'll
that's another story for later. So
we'll
Brighton
get to Sam soon.
So Brighton SEO, just for anybody who didn't go this year, put it on your schedule for next year. Felt so old school. It was awesome. Everybody I've known in the industry over the years, not everybody, most of the people I've known in the industry were there. It was chill. It was laid back. You had time to talk to people. I think there was about 800 people that attended. If I heard correctly, I don't know if that's an accurate number or not, but it seems that's probably around right. It was just such a great experience. There were great talks. I was on the stage with Marcus Tober and Patrick Stock for like a site clinic, brought back site clinics, which are awesome. And then I did a technical SEO piece I did something about anomalies and how they're your best friend in technical SEO. And then there was also other great SEOs on the stage before and after me. It was a block. So it was just a really well done, well attended event. Felt like the ones from like 2000 to 2010 we used to go to, where we all kind of made and formed our community. And so I definitely say everyone should go to it next year. Also, get yourself on the free ticket. They have free tickets, 1 day tickets, and then speakers also get 1 or 2 extra tickets to give to people. And they're already accepting submissions for next year, pitches for speaking. So that should be definitely on your SEO list if you're in the United States, or if you're not, because if you're overseas, you already have 2 of them overseas, but the US one has kind of a different feel than the Brighton UK one. So I would suggest you come on over too, so we can all hang out and chat and have wine and pizza.
I think that's excellent. I'm really pleased that on their debut that the Brighton SEO folks made a great go in San Diego. San Diego's a fun city. It's a nice town, a fun town, I suppose, to have a conference in. Good on them. You immediately went from San Diego to Texas to State of Search.
I did.
Cool thing about State of Search is it was a follow-up. It wasn't a follow-up to Brighton SEO, but you had many of the same minds who were on the stage at Brighton who went on the State of Search.
Yes.
And you could sum up the experience you had at Brighton.
Yeah, it was great. And also, State of Search is pretty cool in that it's a local conference, so it's small, but it brings in very well-known SEOs. Like Dwayne Forrester gave a keynote, Brett Zabacki gave one. There were speakers like Jeff Ferguson, Steve Wiedemann, me, Martha from Schema App. So it was a really great group, and you have lots of time to just talk. So I sat there with Philly Weiss, and if you don't know Philly, he used to be a Google, I don't know if he was a quality engineer or spam engineer, but his partner is also one or the other. And I got to speak to him for 2 hours at a table about Google, which was great. I got to confirm some things and ask him questions. And of course, he doesn't break the NDA, of course. But it's a great conference because it's just small and you get to talk to people. And it has a lot of people that are from, outside of Dallas come to speak. So it's great. And those people also went on to some of those went to Barbados. So some people did the triple. I just did the 2. So there's Barbados SEO by Martin McDonald right now and going on right now. So.
Yeah, Barbados. Yeah, I got a problem with a piece of software, a really essential piece of software that I use, an auditing piece of software, and have a great dialogue with the support team. And the head of support writes me today and says, "You know what? We're going to have you use an old version because our support team is at Barbados SEO. They won't be back until the 24th. So if you want to crawl the site, you're going to have to use this version."
Now I went last year and it was
Thanks,
a lot
Martin.
of fun. But this time he didn't have it in the mansion that he kind of lives in, which cost him less than his house in California. And it's part of the like he came on board during the pandemic when they had the people coming in who did new tech, and they were helping support people in new tech to come into town. So so he does things with the actual government to help support tech in Barbados. But it's a great conference. This one though is at a different venue, so I can't speak to the venue or anything. But it was really a great show. Also small, but also lots of time to talk and chat.
There's going to be great stuff coming out of great information that's going to be coming out of Barbados next
Exactly.
week when the slides start going up on screen and people start talking about it. Okay, another conference that would be off of the beaten radar in the SEO world, but it has a enormous impact on the SEO world is the Wikimedia conference. And in Toronto last week, Wiki Conference North America 2023. It ran from Thursday the 9th till Sunday the 12th, primarily at the Toronto Reference Library, but in venues throughout the city. We have one of the top contributors to WikiCommon, which is the, I guess
Or
you,
Wikimedia Commons, as those of us who call it by its name call it.
okay, I mean, I was going to consider the Wikimedia Common. This is Joe Mabel, by the way, who's,
Hi.
again, one of the top contributors. To give you a scale, he's uploaded 63,000 files to
Wow.
WikiCommons.
And actually, that uploading files a very small portion of what I do there. That's not the bulk of my work.
Oh, you know, Joe, I was going to do an entire. I was going to write a
Sorry.
bio on you, but I'm not going to anymore. Joe, what do you do at WikiCommon?
Well, mostly I'm an admin there. I do a lot of, somebody's trying to sort, and also on Wikipedia, the English language Wikipedia. So I do a lot of things ranging from, oh my God, does this document in Romanian really cite for what someone says it'll cite for? And that's one of the several languages I can read. So, I'm the guy who can answer that question, to things like people are fighting over patterns of naming categories. People are there's some tasks, even pretty routine ones, that are restricted to admins, like deleting files outright can only be done by admins. Um, there's, of course, on anything on that scale, there's a ton of policy stuff happening behind the scenes. And while there's, you don't have it all to be an admin to participate in those discussions, and most people participating in them are not. Generally, it's only an admin that can say we actually have a resolution here. Looking at what everyone has said, I think we have an agreement as to how to move forward, even if a few people are dissenting.
One of the amazing things about Wikimedia and Wikipedia is all these years later, 15, 20 years, I'm not even sure how long it's been here forever, as far as most people know.
Just, depending how you measure, it started in 2000 or 2001.
Okay, so it's been around since pretty much the dawn of the commercial internet, since the earliest
more or
days.
Less simultaneously with Google, which is very germane.
Unlike Google, Wikipedia has remained relatively close to its foundational roots and its mission, and not necessarily in the way it operates, but in its mission and in trying to stay true to its core mission. You've had a front row seat to the evolution of Wikipedia and how it's organized. How many groups are involved in what we would understand to be Wikipedia?
Well, hard to even put a number on it, because they range from informal. To become an official user group there, you only need 3 people.
Okay.
So you have, incredibly tiny user groups. And you also have things that aren't even constituted as user groups, which are just projects within it that are, you don't have any criteria to meet other than, not being sort of against the mission, the overall mission. An example of when I started in 2000, I think 4, was just a group on countering the systemic biases that inevitably arise. And looking at how when we find a systemic bias, how do we address it? There's ones involved in translation for all sorts of languages. So my guess is that there are thousands of somewhat self-organized entities, and probably about 200 officially recognized ones that have the legal status of nonprofits themselves.
How can you possibly get all these different organizations, different collections of individuals, different groups of ideas, biases, needs, wants, ideologies, whatever, to work as a coherent unit?
Because I think they're all pretty much aligned with the broader mission, even if they're working on narrower areas. I mean, it's not like there aren't conflicts, and indeed, 10 years ago, there was some enormous conflict between the foundation as such and the overall community that almost tore the thing apart. And at one point, almost the entire, earlier than that, at one point, almost the entire Spanish language Wikipedia basically walked out, which is why it's the one language in which there's a second project that looks a lot like Wikipedia. There became another Spanish language Wikipedia, but the bulk of the first one around actually walked out and started their own Enciclopedia Libre. We ended up once there were two rival Portuguese language user groups in Brazil that actually both got evicted for fighting so much with each other. But there've only been a handful of such moments along the way in 20 odd years. And, there's enough people pulling the same direction that things like that get sorted out.
Okay, so you have annual conferences, and I guess there hadn't been a in-person conference for quite a while because of COVID. Who comes together at a wiki conference?
We have a lot of conferences besides that. There's sort of three levels of conference of significant broad conferences. There's several around also, I don't even know how many under the name of Wikimania, which are basically just individual users presenting whatever the heck they're working on. Mm-hmm. There's an annual one usually held in Berlin that is really making big high-level policy decisions, things like movement charter, things like code of conduct that is imposed on, that is going to be brought on everyone, things like that. And then there's ones like this that are in between that, in this case, this was WikiConference North America, which is a mostly bottom-up, but we get some funding from the foundation. And that is a mix of maybe 4 or 5 themes plus individual contribution papers that were viewed as being important enough that someone thought they should get broad exposure, which in fact I was there officially in that last capacity presenting on some work I've been doing with archival materials.
So citing who did what is core to Wikipedia's values. Yes. This information came from this source, and we could trace it back to that source.
Correct.
I'm trying to phrase the question.
I would add particularly an issue on Wikipedia. On Commons, if we can simply say something's old enough that it's in the, an image, we know it's old enough that it's in the public domain. If we don't know who took that photo in 1887, we don't really necessarily care that much, other than it's a photo from 1887. Of course, it's in the public domain.
Is there any discussion in the Wikimedia community about artificial intelligence and using Absolutely. AI to train on Wikimedia materials?
AI was one. AI, and also I might add closely tied into that, disinformation and credibility, were among the central themes of this year's conference. And I would say one of the things that came up was, what about when we inevitably start having AI, as some people have already tried and generally gotten in trouble for, having AI try to write articles, and the answer is so far AI writes lousy articles and they get deleted. But conversely, one thing AI does well is if you've already written a good article and you're not like a great writer yourself, but you can just do the basics, AI might write a better lead than you will. Take your article, ask the AI to digest it. It may write a very good lead. Of course, on Commons, we've got our own concerns with AI in terms of deep fakes, in terms of, just how prolifically people can create this insane number of images of something which are kind of useless and we don't want them, So
do you have means of differentiating in both worlds? In the Wikipedia text kind of world, do you have a way of knowing that this is definitely AI generated content? Or in the image, in the Commons world, do you have a way of knowing this is a deepfake image?
Well, we have a requirement to declare it, and if you have an account and you start doing things and you get caught and it wasn't, your account's going to be blocked.
Okay. So the penalties are kind of severe if you.
Yeah, yeah, the penalties are really severe doing that undeclared. Um, just like the penalties for for paid conflict of interest are very severe if you do that, if if you didn't declare your conflict of interest.
I imagine that was a problem a few years ago from the search world.
Um, and not just from the search world, but just from politician hires someone to rewrite their article.
Sure. Okay.
NBC got caught out on it once. The BBC got caught out on it once. Um, so so um, the, no one can completely detect whether something is especially enhanced with AI or on an image, or there is no absolute detection of it, right? But our policy on a retouched photo is supposed to be declared as retouched. We don't really care we don't really care to distinguish between hand retouched and AI retouched. So far, I don't think there's any AI capable of spewing out content at a level that would not simply get deleted in Wikipedia. And one of the things that's really funny is we'd end up with these things where someone obviously generated that way because they had things that looked like footnotes. But, of course, it's just doing predictive text, so it doesn't even refer to real things.
Indeed, there are AIs that are training on Wikipedia now.
In fact, there's a ChatGPT plugin that draws its content only from Wikimedia sites.
What do you think that might have some effect on how people understand information from Wikimedia, and how people use it moving forward?
Yes. I mean, the biggest fear that was expressed is that most people 5 years from now, 10 years from now, will be getting their information almost entirely by talking to a personal assistant. They won't know where it comes from. They'll probably be overly trusting in it. They won't be able to distinguish at all. And one of the other major themes is disinformation, credibility stuff. They won't be able at all to know whether the stuff comes from a reliable source or not. And a large portion of people will blindly trust what they hear. And the further thing that's of enormous concern to us, even if what they get comes solidly out of our solidly cited stuff, they won't know where that came from. And we will lose the main channel by which we gain editors, which is people using it, realizing how useful it is, and wanting to become part of the community.
Do you remember the quaint old days when universities professors were like, well, you can't trust Wikipedia content? That seems so quaint now.
Yes and no. I mean, there's researching with Wikipedia is different than researching with, say, Britannica, let alone with secondary sources. Dan Keshet and I wrote a piece back in maybe 2004 or 5 on researching with Wikipedia that stands up remarkably well about 20 years later. And it talks about both the strengths and weaknesses of Wikipedia as a research tool. The biggest strength, by the way, being that in contrast to a book, if you think something is wrong, you actually can engage and put in an overt question, and somebody will follow up on it, which is a research tool that you don't get from other things. But yeah, for example, if you have a normal book, roughly what its biases are likely to be. If you go to a random Wikipedia article, the biases are effectively random. Unless you actually know enough about the community to know in a meaningful way what the particular authorship of the article means, you could be dealing with anything from something thrown together by an undergraduate to something written by a very competent scholar to something written by somebody rather biased that hasn't really been well reviewed by someone else. So some of those cautions remain valid.
Okay. A large foundation like Wikimedia has millions, tens of millions of dollars and resources and intentions at its disposal, and that can get controversial.
Yes.
There was it would be comical if it wasn't so absurdly dangerous. there was a bomb threat that was phoned in on the
Yeah,
Saturday to the reference library, and there was actually was I think it was up on a dog grooming site or something. Somebody posted it up on some
it was
mundane website in Cleveland.
yeah, and it had hashtags for both the library and the conference.
So somebody who was they were their demands were related to
I didn't. We didn't ever
Wikipedia.
hear their. At least I didn't ever hear their demands. Please give me the
You,
rundown.
you know what? I don't actually
You don't
have
have them
have
either.
it in front of me because
Okay.
it got taken off the website and
Uh,
archive.org didn't capture it. But it was there, and I remember thinking, I got to save this. It's okay, I'll get. And then like minor crisis happened, and I had to go
right.
deal with the crisis, and it was gone. Um, but it did seem that the threateners were angry about resource allocation at some part of the
Ah,
Wikimedia Foundation,
wonder if it was somebody who didn't get a scholarship to the conference.
and they basically swatted the conference. And oddly enough, you didn't get evacuated.
No, it was very weird. It's like they said everybody who's already in has to stay in. Everybody out can't come in. So we're sitting there, with roughly half the people already in the room for the plenary that was supposed to start the day. And we're sitting there and we're in the building which has the bomb threat, and we're not supposed to come out of it. And then eventually, like more than half an hour later, three Toronto police show up. They don't even have dogs with them, which, if you were serious about a bomb threat, you would think you would have bomb sniffing dogs with you. And they don't have any machines that are in any way involved, apparently, in searching for anything because they're just three people walking in. They look around, they go, well, no bomb here. And they're gone. And we get on with the conference. And the plenary gets shifted to happen simultaneously with lunch.
So the worst that happened is you lost a good lunch out of the deal.
We got to where we had to have, we were eating our lunch during the plenary, which happened in the middle of the day instead of to start the day.
Um,
It seems to be common because I had a conference this year that also had a bomb threat. So, and we just kind of walked out. We're like, well, whatever. So
But
sorry that happened.
but I got to say, here in Seattle, where I live, if you get a bomb threat, they evacuate the building as step one.
Here in Toronto, where I live, if you get a bomb threat, it's probably a day that ends in Y. Um, yeah.
It is kind of odd though.
I don't understand why people do this. For what it's worth, again, the manifesto was temporarily put up on a small business website in Cleveland. So I'm not sure, another Great Lake city, but not sure it had any relation to Toronto or even to a credible threat that might have happened to the
No,
conference.
I'm sure they did not see it as a credible threat, or they would have had us out of the building. But I don't understand, if they didn't see it as a credible threat, why they wouldn't let the people into the building.
Welcome to again. They have their inscrutable reasons for doing their
Quite,
inscrutable things.
quite.
Welcome to Toronto, sir. Joe, I want to talk to you all day about Wikipedia. We have, unfortunately, Google went and changed everything yesterday, made
Oh, I
massive
heard.
announcement that we have to cover that. But you mentioned one of the very first sentences you said is Wikipedia has grown up alongside Google. And
Yes,
I
they're
know
very
that,
symbiotic.
well, they are, absolutely. And I know that that the people involved in Wikimedia understand the impact Wikipedia has on search. What I don't know is what you think about it.
Well, one of the things is, as you probably know, that um, all the external links are no follow links,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because early on we discovered people were wanting to hit it with spam to just get a link out to their site and up their counts and all that, and that was just insane. So in one way, it it's going to be very much legitimately organic search for the most part at this point. There's not, if there's way, if we, I mean, I'm not, this is not my main focus in there, but generally, if we find that somebody's working out a way to use us to game search engines, we work out how to remove the thing that lets them do that. It's, on the other hand, certainly, valid external links are welcome in a limited way, and obviously the fact that we're very often one of the first couple of results in any search for things that are within our scope is is clearly in effect on search.
Well, and it's also clearly a testament to how valued Wikipedia is, because
I would agree,
you're ranking
especially the
high in
English
search because
language
people are linking to
Wikipedia.
you.
Yeah,
You know?
especially the English language Wikipedia. So,
Absolutely.
because there are 380 now.
How much support is there for the other language Wikipedias? And how
Well,
important is that?
oh, some of them are enormous. You take the obvious next 10 or so languages, and they're very real. English language has become something special because it's usually the translation among them is done by bringing a translation from whatever something was written in into English and then translating outwards from English. So you don't get a lot going, say, straight from Spanish to German. But the
Sure.
German, Spanish, French, Japanese, Chinese, I'm sure I hope I'm not offending somebody by what didn't leap to mind, but all of those are very comprehensive encyclopedias. And even something like one that a language I happen to know, Romanian. If you were looking for topics about Romania, you would find better coverage in the Romanian language Wikipedia than in English.
I could understand that. Joe, I want to ask you 100,000 questions, but
But you don't have time.
I'm afraid we don't have time, but we do want you back again. It is a lot of fun talking to you, and I'm learning stuff.
I'd love to do this again. And yes, there's a ton. I mean, I barely scratched the surface of what I was even hoping to get into today.
Joe Mabel from Wikimedia and Wikicommon, thank you so much for joining us on Webcology today. We're going to have you back again sometime soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Definitely. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Now, Christine, the hard part about like closing an interview like that is you have this guy here. You want to ask 100 questions to get off on it. I did that. I went off on the language tangent. I couldn't help myself. It was there, and I had to.
I know. I get it. I mean, it's such an important piece of everything. I mean, a lot of training for the LLMs was done on Wikimedia, so it's great. Yeah, but we definitely need to have him back because unfortunately, Google decided to Google bomb us, using an old term, with a lot of changes today, plus a couple other things we need to cover. So we have to do some rapid fire, and then we'll do deep dives on the things that need to be deep diving. Is diving a word? It's not really a word, but
we will deep dive on stuff coming up soon. If we wanted to sum this all up, we might have used Bing Chat, but we can't because it ain't Bing Chat anymore. It's now Bing Copilot. So if you're looking for Bing Chat, you ain't going to find it. It's Copilot.
And it's called Copilot because that matches everything else that they're doing with their products. So that's why it's Copilot. So it's all Copilot now.
This is a big branding exercise for them, really.
Yeah, it is.
Gee, I wonder if they had an AI tell them this was a good idea or not.
They probably did. So move on. Next one.
This is a fun one. It makes me really, really happy to announce this is for real. I'm not just saying it because they were the butt of our jokes for I don't know how many years. Yahoo's back. For real, for honest, for goodness. They're coming back with an independent search engine. They're coming back.
You know how I know that Jim's Canadian? Because he says, how do you say that?
Well,
Yahoo! Yahoo!
Yahoo, yeah. Yahoo.
In the US, we say Yahoo.
Well,
but you know what I'm just excited about? First, we know some of the people on the team who are all fantastic SEO. So actually, people are making fun of it today, but I'm kind of like, I have some hope. We do need a competitor to Google because maybe stuff like today wouldn't happen. And they're going to make my email address respectable again, and no one can laugh at me.
That's true. I have an old fossil watch from the old days when Yahoo was relevant. And this was back in the day when they actually gave writers gifts. I disclosed it. Anytime I wrote about Yahoo, I disclosed this watch. But they gave a whole bunch of people these beautiful fossil watches. It won't be a collector's item for much longer.
Exactly. And, my email address, because I don't really like Gmail, so I never changed. So I have had the same one since I got online and, whatever.
Okay,
so I'll be cool.
I'm really excited about it. We've been saying for years and years and years, the only tool that's going to kill Google is Google itself. And that still, I think, remains true. Yahoo isn't going to kill Google, just like AI-enhanced Bing wasn't going to kill Google. But AI-enhanced Bing has pushed Google into positions where it may well be killing itself, and nature abhors a vacuum, and it's wonderful to see Yahoo being back.
It is. It's great. It'd be great to have more than one search engine at conferences. Back in the day, we had 5 or 6.
I know, and they used to compete they used to have to compete for like the favor of the SEO community, and that
Yeah.
competition could get very fierce and very liquid very fast.
Also, it keep Google from doing stuff like we're going to announce today.
Indeed, we have a lot of stuff to talk about with Google. Okay, what other fast hits do we got to do? Because I really want to get to the Google
Just a
stuff.
fast hit, just because there's no deep dive on it. Apparently, Sam Altman seems to imply OpenAI is building God. That's what AGI is going to be, and they think their ChatGPT 5 might be AGI, but we don't have any more details today. So we'll just say that no, you're not. You're not building God. You're creating a piece of tech that's going in your mind act like a god, but it's not actually God. So whatever your
Sam,
belief in God is.
stop doing the MDMA while watching Battlestar Galactica.
Exactly,
Like,
right? Come on.
yeah, I mean, if you are going to
Yeah.
do MDMA while watching Battlestar Galactica, stop working on the AI.
And by the way, if you're going to create God, you probably don't want to tell people that because they're going to get really nervous about your tech really, really fast. I'm just saying. So what's
Oh, I don't
next?
know. I mean, seriously, couldn't
Oh,
do any worse.
here's the other funny. ChatGPT premium subscriptions right now are on hold. So if you went to the conferences this last week and you're like, I'm going to go sign up now because everyone was telling people to sign up because I was there.
Can't.
You can't because they were selling the signups on eBay. So which overwhelmed the system. So they had to shut down signups for a little bit. So I don't know when they'll come back, probably pretty soon. But right now they have paused the signups. How do you sell a sign up to something that you just go to the website to sign up for on eBay? I don't know. I haven't actually looked to see what the listings
Oh,
look
you
like.
sell the profile. You sell access to the profile. Give them
Oh,
username
there
and
you go.
password.
There you go. That's right.
Now
That's
you're
good.
also selling them access to the corpus of the chat history that had happened there before. So whatever you're buying will be somewhat biased to whatever it's already talked about.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting thing that
And then
happened.
and just like with an expired domain, you don't know exactly what your AI and some other rando has talked about. Um,
Exactly. And then we're going to move on to other things. This will lead us into
God.
Google. Two quick Googles. One, Google Legal has taken action to protect users of AI and small businesses. Basically, all those DMCA requests that people were getting annihilated with, people were getting their stuff taken down. Apparently, is like a couple people, and so Google has a lawsuit targeting bad actors who set up dozens of Google accounts to like report your content as copyrighted when it wasn't. So this will be huge because this was a big thing. It's like resulted in the removal of over 100,000 businesses' websites, which were all fraudulent claims. Hundreds of thousands. There's a very small group of people. So that's really important. So if you've been struggling with DMCA, you should know that's about to get better. And then also they're going to come down hard on anybody using generative AI to help spread malware. So good luck with that, though. It's going to be a tough one. Yeah. And then Google Bard, then we'll get to changes. Google Bard is opening up to teenagers. So if you have a teenager in the house and they are of the legal age to have a Google account, they will be able to access Google Bard. I don't know that I think this is a great idea, but we could do a deep dive later. But just, it's it hallucinates. And I don't know that apparently like Gen Z, which would be this age group, is one of the worst generations for understanding that things are fake or propaganda.
I
So
spent a lot of my teenage years hallucinating.
I don't think it's the same kind of hallucination.
Okay.
But basically, if you have a teenager in the house, they'll be able to access Bard. If you're going to let them access Bard, I would have a long conversation with them, telling them how it can make stuff up so they don't get in trouble, like with school, and they ask it something and they turn it in, and then like end up on their paper or something because it wasn't actually accurate. So I think that's all the other things outside the changes.
Okay.
Right?
To the best of my memory, I wrote this 20 years ago today. Okay. I rewrote it last week again for an article that Roger Monti has written over at a search engine journal, recollecting on the day the Googleverse changed, the Florida update. And the funny thing is, this is just as relevant today as it was 20 years ago. And it's pretty stunning. 6 weeks before Christmas, and all through the web, not a placement was stirring because they were all dead.
Oh,
Dossiers were hung in mass digital files, defining all websites, their friends and their wiles, and in a great blunder, an awful sort just got slewed, making mincemeat of merchants whose lives just got screwed. I, all alone with ranked checks on my screen, could only see red where once I saw green, yet Google was out whistling loud with great cheer past corpse yards of websites it killed late in the year.
really good one. For those who don't
Yeah,
know, Florida was the first big Google update, and it annihilated sites, took them down like 90% or even more. And so
Florida.
people's businesses were killed right before Christmas, and they didn't know. They didn't like now we know to expect updates, but they didn't know there was such a thing as an update. So
So
Google promised
here's
never to do that again right before the holidays, and yeah,
on Sunday, November the 16th, 2023, Google released a massive update that literally changed about 90% of the top 20 websites in its index,
yeah.
demoting well 90% of the websites that were in its index. And that was on a Sunday. So you could see the forums start to light up. The I Help You forum, the Create a Site forum, the early Webmaster World forum. You could see it light up on the Sunday, but we weren't at work. And this is like 2003. Most people had high speed internet, but you didn't necessarily have your massive tool set at home because things weren't in the clouds. You had to store things on your hard drive. So I had basic rank checkers and stuff on my home computer, but I didn't have my tool set that I had on my computer over at Stepforth where I worked at the time. And so I had to watch carnage without being able to really do anything about it till the office opened the next day. And I think there was like dozens, if not hundreds of SEOs in North America, because there wasn't really a lot of us at the time, feeling the same thing. Um, it was crazy. And then you walked into work the next day and the phone was lit up. People, this is back in the day when people actually phoned each other. They didn't bother emailing, they phoned.
Yeah, I
And
wasn't in SEO yet, so this was not. I was just front end dev designer at the time, so I didn't know about all this then.
this was the very first massive Google algorithm update. We knew what an algorithm was, sort of, kind of, we thought. We had no idea the power one had. And I think it was Jim Boykin earlier, also who was quoted in the same article, who said this is what taught him that Google doesn't give you anything for free. There's nothing guaranteed. You have it one day, you don't the next. Because that's literally what happened. It
The
was,
Thanos.
but the neat thing, Google actually gave us detailed documents on what it was trying to do. And the harshest thing is, most of Florida was in fact a mistake that had to be fixed with another update called Brandy a few months later. Um, but in that time, just before Christmas, all these nascent e-commerce businesses. Remember, this is 2003, the beginning of
Yes.
the web.
Yeah.
Um, they were wiped off the map suddenly. These early e-com businesses were suddenly gone. Setting, I think, an industry back a tremendous way because if they waited until January, people could have had their Christmas and their business could have maybe survived the change moving into March, April, May, whatever, right? But this was Christmas.
Yeah.
Anyway, it
It
was
was
just,
bad. It was hard. Yeah. And they agreed not to do big updates at Christmas, but this year all plans are off. Gary told us a couple weeks ago or maybe a month ago, because my assumption is Project Gemini is still in the works, was supposed to have already rolled out. And so they pushed all the updates till so they were going to push them, till the end of Project Gemini. And now, now they can't do that because Project Gemini is not releasing until first quarter sometime. They don't even have a date right now. So I have a feeling that's why everything got pushed off. Why we're having so many updates all at the same time.
the this brings us, yeah, again to today, to the announcements that started trickling out from Google yesterday and moving into today. Google is
It's
re-relating to how it relates to search and searchers. In some ways, it feels like it's trying to emulate a social media environment, or it's going to be emulating a social media environment, which in so many ways we can see degenerating badly quickly.
Yes.
I've already thought of a half dozen ways that less scrupulous SEOs are going to try to exploit some features. Like, can you imagine figuring out how they do cohorts and exploiting the follow feature? I know there's a way. I just don't know how yet.
Oh, we will. We will know how. And that's a good thing about black hats. They do break things, and then they tell us how they broke it when they get hit by Google. So we'll get information. But yeah, there's so much like, and it feels like Google's is chasing, like they tell us don't chase algorithms. Like Google's chasing I don't know how the right word for it, business environment. Yeah, no, not demographics. They're chasing the people they have decided are competitors. So which one do you want to start with? Because I can apply it to anything we're talking about.
I think we can sort of sort this into two sort of algo updates. One called Hidden Gems, the other that I'm going to call hyper-personalization.
Mm-hmm.
Hidden Gems is Google's name. Hyper-personalization is my name. Hidden Gems we can start with, because I think that just sort of uncorks the genie on a whole bunch of weird SEO arguments. Google announced Hidden Gems in the ranking system. It's going to be trolling or drawing up information from forums. I didn't mean trolling, my mistake. I was thinking trolling the depths of like of a harbor or something. It's going to be going like deep into forum posts, social media, blog posts, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your the fire hose we call comments. Twixter. And it's going to be drawing little snippets that relate to the search query.
And by the way, so to be clear, this is not part of helpful content, which it originally was supposed to be. It is the Hidden Gems ranking system all of its own. So it's not related to helpful content anymore. But you know what I think of? This is what I think of. This is not my post, but I'm just thinking of like some poor person was on a forum like a year ago having bowel problems, and because they have IBS, and they're talking about it, and all of a sudden tomorrow it shows up at the top of search with their name and picture if there's one available, and their information from that forum about their bowel problems. And I just think this is not going to go well for Google.
Many of us feel they're paid.
Like you go from like page 590 to the front page of the New York Times is kind of what that's like, right? And then the other thing is, because people do talk about a lot of sensitive things on open forums because they assume it's going to stay inside the forum, not that Google's going to surface it. But also, I don't want it in my search. Like, I'm so frustrated right now how bad search has gotten because Google hasn't been paying attention to search. But with Reddit, like they really read it wrong. When they decided that everybody was putting Reddit after their search, wanted Reddit to show up high, right? So it's like, no, people couldn't find things on Reddit, so they added Reddit. Like when I can't find something on Twitter, I add Twitter. I want something in a social media site, I add the name of the social media site. Now what's happening is I have a search that has nothing to do with Reddit or anything Reddit can offer me any information on, and I'll get like 8 Reddit results.
You know what? In 15 minutes from now, I guarantee you Reddit's going to be charging $8 so you're verified and so that your account and your stream is open to search spiders.
Maybe they talked about getting off.
I'd do that if I was that man. In a minute, you'd be making millions. Like seriously,
but they said they might get off Google. They might get off Google. Remember, we talked about that about a month ago.
Because Google is putting the pressure on everybody right now in the biggest way. Google wants everyone to conform to their Googleverse standards, and if you can't conform to them, then they're threatening you with being de-indexed. Oh my God, you don't show up in the image viewport. You are de-indexed.
Yeah, and Google's like, and Reddit's like, yeah, we don't care because our users will come anyway. But the thing is about Hidden Gems is this all feels like a social network, right? And I don't come to Google for a social network. If I want a Reddit piece, I will put Reddit on my query.
You want to see a social network? Wait till you see Google Notes. Like, oh my goodness. Okay. This is something, by the way, that's never going to happen. They're playing with it. It's never actually going to happen because that'll generate the anarchy in minutes.
Well, first of all, we did mention hyper-personalization, so let's not skip over that real quick. So hyper-personalization is and I believe I have not got confirmation, but this should be how it works. If you signed in and on your settings in Google, you say personalize my stuff, you're going to get way more rabbit holes about what sites they're going to show you. They're going to add more personalized search. I don't like that because I want to know about sites I haven't heard of because maybe they have something really good to say. So I have personalization turned off. So hopefully that still holds in this environment. It should.
So in certain cases, and I'd love to see Google do this, if you would let me set up different search profiles for different reasons I might be using your search engine, in research mode, hyperpersonalization might be incredibly useful. You're going to draw me back to my references over and over and over and over again. In that context, that could be amazing. But in my real life, but in my real life, that I don't want to go where I've always gone before. I don't need to dig down those rabbit holes. I need to discover new material because that's why I'm on a search engine. Otherwise, I just go do what I did last time.
Right, exactly. And I'm an opposite for me for research. I want rabbit holes in my research. I'm looking up like helpful content update and 20 people have written about it. I want to be 20 sites I've never seen before and voices I don't know, because sometimes those are the most interesting. There's so many things I've written about over the years where the information I referenced wasn't an SEO anyone knew about or a blog anyone ever heard of, but it was the best piece out there. And I don't want hyper-focused filterization. That's social media stuff. I already get that in social media. I don't need it in a search engine.
As you were saying, though, Google's going to give you the toggle on, toggle off option, right?
Yeah, but what a pain in the butt, right? Like if opting out of personalization keeps me out of it, which I'm already opted out of, that'll be fine. But if they start making me toggle in and out, I'm just going to be annoyed. Like Google is not supposed to be social media. I'm supposed to go to the library, which Google is, digital library, and find what I want to find. And we know some of that filtering already exists, but at least it's mild. But now they're like, we're going to give you hyper-personalization and hidden gems. That poor IBS person who's not going to be in front and center.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to. We only got a couple minutes left in the episode. I want to hit on this SEO myth, and I want to just nail it and sort of whack-a-mole it down as quick as we can. Hidden gems will bring up an image of a user who made a post. It'll take that image from that post and it'll associate it with that post, that specific post, as one sort of thing. Helpful gems and hyperpersonalization, neither of them are creating authors as entities. It's not taking the Jim wrote 10 social media posts. Each of them got pulled in as hidden gems. Those 10 are not stitched together as things that were authored by Jim. It's not going to work that way. You might find many incidents of Jim making the same post in a social media environment, because social media is actually multiple replication of the same thing across many different feeds. And I saw this really weird thing. We were doing some research yesterday for the show, and Christine made a post on Gavin Klondike, as somebody we had on back in August on AI. And 20 different LinkedIn references came up in the Google search.
Yeah, like if I put in Webcology, I get every streaming network, but I put in Gavin Klondike Webcology and I get LinkedIn Christine.
Because you were promoting the show.
Yes, it's not useful. What's useless? Webcology showing up on the streaming channels with Gavin Klondike, and so I can pick a streaming channel and post it. But no, I got 20
More importantly, in that process where we saw 20 incidents of Christine Schackinger wrote, in none of those instances was Google making Christine Schackinger the entity that wrote this. This is not showing up in her knowledge graph. It's not being attributed to her as Christine the author. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't actually. Danny was very clear on this in Brighton, where he said, in general, we don't use authors and we don't use experts. We don't track any of that. We want to know you wrote with expertise, and that's based on vector relationships and things like that. We don't need to get into it now. But
basically, if you were an expert, you would write it as such. Yes. Basically,
if all the other documents that are topically related to what you wrote about use very different ways of entities in their writing and stuff, then you're probably not an expert. You're not writing with expertise. So it's not about the author or the expert. You're writing with expertise. If you get a boost from an author or an expert, it's not because Google knows them. It's because It might be someone who's really well known or has written a lot or is famous, and their entity graph is larger. And so more things relate to, user intent. But in this moment in the social media, Google, that's not even that. They're not tracing any of that. All they're doing is doing content polls. They're just pulling out that this is the name of the person. This is what it was written about. Here's how many follows they had. They're not even doing entity anything. They're just, here's what we're pulling out and displaying on the page. Just like if you did a content extraction in a search crawl. So a site crawl. So it's none of that. And thank you we really need to clarify that because Danny wrote about it on Twitter today and yesterday.
Last point I want to make on this is, could they be setting up a system for the future? Yes, but there are better ways to do it. So this is kind of clunky, so probably not.
No, I say absolutely not, because there's trillions of documents that all have authors. And then Google would have to know who the author is and when did they change the name and what did they write for and what is the social media and how many social medias do they have that don't use that name, and then they have to relate all those together. And there's trillions of these and there's billions of profiles.
Yeah,
why would they do that?
It would be clunky as hell. They wouldn't. It would be a very inefficient way of doing it.
Costly. It'd be way too costly. For what purpose? All they need to know is that the content is quality and there's expertise. They're never going to do verification of people. So, I mean,
not this way anyway. Not by hoovering and storing and replicating,
exactly.
storing. That takes too much resources.
And one last thing on this, the big myth usually originates from authorship from Google+. Google+ was an identity system for the NSTIC. You can look all this up. And authorship was part of your identity. Everyone had to have a Google+ login because it was to replace passwords around the world. Google was just one of the identity systems that were going to be used. Yeah, so authorship died with Google+. Like, it doesn't exist anymore.
Well, hold it. That attempt at authorship in that way, but Google's going to try. They will try something again. They absolutely will. But it's not part of anything right now.
Right, and I'm talking about that authorship. That original authorship died with Google+.
Yeah, but to suggest they're not going to try it again, of course they are. They have to. It'd be absurd not to.
No.
Okay, speaking of absurd not to, you were in the room for this again, Danny, at Brighton, not confirming. I don't know how he does this without his eyes blinking rapidly. Not confirming that Google uses click data.
Yeah, which is silly because Google says they use click data and RankBrain, because all RankBrain is, we don't understand what you searched for, the intent, so we're going to give you lots of things. And over a year or two, when you have lots of people clicking on things, we're going to decide what the intent is. So, but they don't use it in search ranking signals. It's not like I click on my page and now I've changed the core value of my ranking score and blah, blah, blah. None of that happens. You may make a short-term change because Google might think there's a trend going on, but it'll go away in 24 to 48 hours, generally speaking. So Google's only using it in the way they've always said, which is in the DOJ documents, which is the last user helps you find things better. And when you search for something, that data goes back in to refine searches again, along with millions of others of clicks and hovers and things like that. And then they refine the search results. So it's a very big group aggregate click data, not your specific clicks are going to change the value and the sort order other than maybe a quick trend. And then also it's not going to your scoring of your documents. It's just a general search result. Like Google's like, hey, this search result's not matching, so let's change it. Like my LinkedIn 20 times, Google might decide, hey, this was a bad result because lots of people clicked on the search result and they're not clicking on these LinkedIn's, so they might reduce it to 1. And then
no offense, Christina, I didn't click on them either.
I didn't click on them either because they weren't helpful, and they're my own post or my own story. I just wanted to get Gavin's show so I could give it to someone.
And actually, I want to walk one thing back. I was a little indelicate to Danny there. The amount of stress and pressure when people are shooting questions about how Google works at you. To be able to answer every question in the way that the SEO community would want you to answer the question, no matter who you are, would be really, really, really. And apologies to Danny. I understand why you don't blink your eyes when they ask you questions like that.
He was in rapid fire mode for sure, right?
Undoubtedly.
But the interaction signals are literally in the DOJ doc, so you can go look up those images and you can see exactly how they use it. Matt Cutts said years ago, before 2010, though I don't remember exactly when, that they used click data and signals as an aggregate grouping. So it's not new. It's not that anyone was lied to. It's just that people just jumped on that as soon as they heard click data because there was such a big controversy in the past.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, Danny, blink your eyes if they're being mean to you. Okay. Last thing, we're almost out of time. We're like minutes away. If you're going to look for robot text tests over at Google Search Console, stop looking. It's not there anymore. You're not going to find it.
No. Oh.
Then what you will find if you go to settings just above crawl settings, you will now find a robots text reporter that can tell you a bunch of stuff about the robots text file, but it will not test it for you. Google wants you to go out and get your own testing done elsewhere, but it'll tell you everything it thinks about the file.
I would say if a lot of us request getting it back, maybe they'll do it because
yes,
it doesn't cost them.
They will. No, they won't.
No, maybe sometimes, every now and then, once in 1,000 times they do.
I urge you to write a 16-page complaint letter. Get off, yeah.
Because if anyone from Google's listening, because Daniel's usually very responsive and he didn't answer today why they removed it, but we'd actually need the tester that you have so we can test when we write things. And we change robots text that we can actually test if it's Google's interpreting it the way we think it is. I mean, I know robots text is supposedly the same protocol all over for everybody, but it's not, and we know that. So please, Google, this is my personal plea, bring back the robot text tester.
You know what? That or drop a few bucks to the GT Metrics guys or to PageSpeed Dev folks. Let them be your tester. Well, I'm happy using Lighthouse stuff. Go for it. But throw them a few bucks. If Google doesn't want to support this as a resource base, I understand that. That's really expensive. But there's great tools out there that are already Google API'd. Just, let them do this job. Let them carry the load for you. Just help them out to do it.
Yeah, and if Google knows not a lot.
Did you read what they're willing to give Apple? Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in like that, but did you read what Google is willing to give Apple just to be their search engine of choice?
I know it's in the billions, right?
Okay, so
was I wrong? It's in the billions.
Billions is close. To give 33% of all ad revenue that's drawn from the an ad that appears on an Apple product of any sort. 1/3, 33% of that revenue goes to Apple. I think I don't have the story up in front of me. I'm sorry, and I actually can't find it in our grid. But I think that amounts to about $23 billion over the last annually.
That sounds like what I read too. So either way, it's billions and billions of dollars.
Tremendous amount of money that came out of the antitrust suit that's happening on the Hill right now. And it sort of shows how important to Google investing in being everywhere is. Think of a combination of people getting tired of lackluster results or results that just aren't working for them anymore. Google being forced to change many of its, to be polite, anti-competitive ways. And the emergence of a credible third party such as Yahoo or Bing, if people start to get over the name Bing, and I could see Google actually sort of dancing its way into self-created trouble.
Well, Google. I have talked to somebody this week who knows people at Google. And they say people at Google are actually really scared OpenAI could literally destroy search, and make them irrelevant. And that is possible. But there's also a lot of limitations to OpenAI, like taking trillions of searches every day. That would be very difficult for them. But at the same time, chasing what all the other people are doing and stuffing it into search isn't really going to help them. I feel the same as you. I think that if you're going to target SGE with creative tools like images and things like that, make a new tab, just call it Create, have people sit there all day, refresh the ads every time they use the SGE, and then have it import into all your products, right? That makes sense. Or and then have a thing called perspectives. You want people's individual opinions, just focus on that and perspectives. But Google's violating exactly what they tell us not to do. They're taking everything with mixed intents and throwing it into one place, cluttering that up to the point where most things are just not even findable anymore. And then their search is actually deteriorating. It's become very poor. And the last week it's been horrendously awful.
Yeah.
And so instead of strategically thinking like how can we integrate this into that page, and maybe we'll use different tabs for different intents, which is what they would tell us to do. They're just dumping it all into search, and search doesn't have that much room. Like search is just out of room, and putting
Well,
the people that pay for your ads 1200 pixels down under an SGE result or all this other stuff is like it's just not going to be good for them, for people paying for ads. And my final thing is like notes, who needs notes? Like you're going to make notes about search results and then it's going to be publicly visible, and the notes, you got to look up the images, people. They look like they came from MySpace. And why do I need that? Like, in what way is this helpful? And how is this not going to be weaponized to the nth degree within like 6 months, probably 6 days, really?
so
So they've lost their, I just think they've jumped the shark. Fonzie going over the shark with the water skis. I think they've
hey
jumped the shark.
Google, screw the god that Sam Altman is trying to make. What would Marissa Mayer do? That's the
Right?
question I think they need to ask themselves.
That's it. What is Google? Like, if Google wants to be a
Well,
social network, fine, make that separate, but leave search alone because I still need to find stuff, right?
okay, we're jumping out really quick, but there was the incredible link analysis search tool that Larry and Sergey made, and then there was the elegant information repository that Marissa Mayer created from the search tool that Larry and Sergey made. Um, and the Google that I think many people understood up until recently was the Marissa Mayer universe, as far as fast, pared down, we're just giving you the answers you're looking for version where you had like literally two buttons on the front page. That's changed, and now it's becoming a utility knife again, like a Swiss Army knife, much like Yahoo did before it went down in flames. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. What would
Okay.
Marissa do? That's what I'm actually thinking of even calling this episode.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea because basically, if it's top stories, that's an ad. That's great. That's a great ad, right? But notes, who needs it? And surfacing people's what they said in a comment on a forum without me asking to see that forum or that social media site, not helpful. And the basic search is really just really, really bad. We don't have time for me to go into some of the results I got this week, but they were just horrendously awful.
Well,
And
you
stop
must have been
working on
getting
this
my
stuff.
client sites because I'm getting the clicks. Ha!
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking about my search as a user, not as an SEO. Just like I'm trying to find
Hey,
something and I'm getting like a dozen random sites that say untitled,
well,
like
no,
on
again,
them.
I'm seeing craptastic search results in different sectors. But again, you remember how in the olden days we used to say it was good when my clients are benefiting? It's the weirdest thing. Um, it's
Because
honestly, I'm loving these updates, even though I'm seeing how they're not necessarily great for the information sphere.
yeah, and we need information. Like we don't need another social network. We need to be able to find information, and Google is the place to do it. And if I know several people at the conference, pretty big names, so they're not even using Google right now except for work. Like they've moved on to other search engines because they can't find anything. So if someone's listening from Google again, we are not being critical because we're being critical. We're being critical because it's really bad. And
Wait,
if you want to get a
okay.
bunch of NCOs to show you how, contact us. We'll let you know.
This actually really has to be the very last thing. Studio must be
Sure.
freaking out at this point. Um, Roger Monti put a piece in yesterday's Search Engine Journal, so that would be the 15th of November. 7 artificial intelligence driven search engines as alternatives to Google. Um, they're going to give you generative AI responses, absolutely, but check them out. They're all interesting in their own right, and they're all none of them are Google killers by any means. But like you were just saying a moment ago, Christine, Google, go back to your grassroots because the pretenders are out there, and there's lots of them.
Yeah, and truthfully, like DuckDuckGo is probably my alternative right now. Bing.
Well, we should
Because at
we
least I
should
could
talk to
find
those guys.
something. Yeah, we definitely should. So they're an interesting group.
We have to jump. It's been we've gone over our hour, but it was a hell of a week. I want to thank Joe Mabel. I really wish we could have had him on a lot longer today. We're gonna have him back on again sometime in the future. But again, with the hours from Google, we just had to.
Yeah.
Any last words, Christine?
I don't know. I think we got it all. I think I'm a little tired. So much,
Indeed.
so much this week, so much in 48 hours. But that's being an SEO, isn't it?
No,
Adapt,
SEOs are
learn, change.
quick scheduling note. Next Thursday is American Thanksgiving. We will not be doing an episode, so we're gonna have a 2 week gap. That's cool though. That means we're gonna have a 4 day weekend. And we can go back to what every other North American tech does, which is gritting our teeth and getting ready to work through a 4 day weekend somehow. So, on behalf of Christine Chackinger from Sites Without Walls, this is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media. Be well, be safe, don't drink and drive, don't smoke and fly, don't be an idiot in public. um, be safe, be well, rank well. Watch what's happening at Google. There's 100 different ways that your businesses can take advantage of the changes. We're gonna be thinking about them over the next couple of weeks. We're not going to be here next week. We will be back again the week after. So no show on the 23rd, but there will be a show on the 28th. In the meantime, stay safe, be good to each other, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Happy
Bye,
Thanksgiving.
everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving.